May I now invite him to share his thoughts and ideas with us.
I'm going to, while Ashwini was speaking, I quickly noted down the points that I wanted to make in the slides. And that's what I'm going to speak to you about. We've got, I guess, half an hour. The topic is supposed to be today, innovations in a disrupted society. What, how, when. Since all of you students, let me start with a question. What do you think has been the biggest potential disruption in the education system worldwide, let's say in the last 5 years? I'm not talking of innovations. Innovations could be adding a political science or a history or an economic course to your engineering studies, which I think is just a brilliant idea, but nobody does that. And innovation could be allowing students to study from home one day of the week, but they're not disruptions. Can any of you think of what has been the biggest massive disruption in the education system globally in the last 5 years? So the biggest disruption in my view has been the availability of called MOOCs. Have you heard of MOOCs? Massive open online courses. Some of the names and Coursera and all that Ashwini is mentioning is all part of MOOCs. They've completely changed the way the education system is now implemented globally, the way people will learn over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, this is a dramatic disruption. And the reason I'm using this example, because all of the students, is to bring out that there is a difference between innovation and there is a difference between disruption, and there is something called an invention. So we invent things, we innovate things, we disrupt things, and they're all completely different. At the very lowest level, you have what is called invention. So you invent because for whatever reason you invented something. You also innovate, and sometimes you end up disrupting things. Now here is the key difference. An invention can remain just an invention. It need not be an innovation. It need not be a disruption. All innovations are not disruptions. Some are, but not all. But every single disruption is an innovation. And innovation dramatically changes the way we do things, or the way we consume things, or the way we execute a process, or we use a service or a product. A disruption essentially not does all of this, but destroys. The power of disruption is to destroy. The power of innovation is to make significant material improvements. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because, A, it's part of the topic, so I have to mention them. But the more important reason I'm mentioning this to you is not to worry whether you're trying to invent, not to worry whether you're trying to innovate, and not to worry whether you're trying to disrupt. It's almost impossible for a group of people to come together and say, let's disrupt, because it never happens. Sometimes you say, can I innovate? Maybe. But I think the key point here is all of them are really the wrong side of the problem to start from. So, irrespective whether you're trying to invent, you're trying to innovate, or you're trying to disrupt, you have to remember one thing. It's something that the speakers in the morning mentioned. She was talking about, and I think everybody is talking about it, so it is going to be a repetition, but it is true. Forget the idea. You have to solve a problem. Too many people spend too much of their time looking for the next big idea. There is no next big idea, right? All the big ideas are taken. And this is true till somebody comes up with the next big idea, right? But that's not your problem. I think if you think of the next big idea, you're not going to get there. The key for you is to see, am I solving a problem? And that is the only thing you need to focus on. Is there a problem that exists? Are reasonably large number of people facing this problem? And can I do something to solve the problem? If you're doing that, then I think you're trying to do something interesting. It could end up being an invention. It could turn out to be an innovation. And for all you know, it could go on to become a massive disruption. But don't forget, the fact is you have to solve a problem. That's the first step. The next step, after you solve the problem, is to remember just 3 simple words. 3 words that will tell you whether you're on the right track or not. And the 3 words are cheaper, faster, better. There is nothing else that you can do, whether you're inventing, whether you're innovating, or whether you're disrupting. You have to come up with something that takes an existing stuff and makes it cheaper, or faster, or better. If you can do something that is cheaper and faster and better, then it is huge. The chances are that you're disrupting. If you're doing something that is merely cheaper, you could be inventing something, but it may not stand the test of time because somebody will always find something that is cheaper than yours. There is nothing in the world that is cheapest except free. And I'm sure people will figure out ways of being cheaper than free. If you're doing something that is faster and cheaper, then I think you're adding significant value. If you're doing cheaper, faster, better, then I think that's the bullseye. And that's true in any area, irrespective of the biggest digital invention that you're looking for, or you want to go start, what should I say, a tea kadai. Even if you want to go and start a tea kadai, that's fine. You remember the principles are the same. If there is an existing tea shop and you want to put up a tea shop next to that tea shop and compete with that person, there are only 3 ways you can do this. You can make your tea cheaper than the other guy's tea. You can serve tea faster than the other guy serves tea. You can serve tea that tastes better than the other guy's tea. You can say, I'm going to make tea that is significantly better than that guy. Well, it's going to cost more. Or I'm going to make tea that is better. I'll also serve it faster than he does. He takes 2 minutes to give a cup of tea. I'll give my tea in 1 minute, but it'll taste better, but it'll go to cost 3 rupees more. So you'll find some set of customers who are interested in better tasting tea. If you can make tea that is better, faster and cheaper, then you're truly causing disruption. Sure, you're causing disruption in a very small community in that area, but disruption doesn't necessarily mean you'll disrupt the whole world. So there is a difference between invention, innovation and disruption. And the issue is, how many boxes are you ticking? Can any of you think of one company in the last 5 years that got cheaper, faster, better, right? I'll come back to the question, but think about it. I'm going to ask this question. One company that did cheaper, faster, better, all 3 of them at the same time in the last 5 years. While you think of an answer, let me explain to you another interesting thing. When you innovate, innovations could be product innovations, innovations could be process innovations. So we go back to the same tea kadai. If I'm making tea better than the other guy, my tea tastes better. That's a product innovation. If I'm able to serve tea faster than the other guy, that's a process innovation. Whenever you innovate and you take a product or a service and you innovate, you will realize that you're either making a product improvement or a service improvement or a process improvement, which is you're innovating on product or you're innovating on the process. There is no other way of innovation. There is no third way. So if you take, so you, just to quickly summarize, if any of you want to really start up and go on to do your own thing, and a whole lot of principles were laid out to you in the morning and now, combining to all that, remember a few simple things. Forget the idea, solve the problem. When you solve the problem, find out if you're doing cheaper, faster, better. It is better if your idea is superior or your problem that you're solving is great. The issue is you must do all of them at the same time, ideally. Which brings me back to the question, which is the one company in the world in the last 5 years that did cheaper and faster and better? Any names? Uber. Absolutely. This company does exactly what people for the last 50 years have been doing. They've been picking up the phone and calling cabs. They said, okay, we'll use the phone, we'll call the cab. So this is a product improvement, there is a process improvement. But what did they do? A, they certainly did it better, they absolutely did it faster, and they're now doing it cheaper. So suddenly, you have cheaper and faster and better. And that's why, to answer the question that the other speaker was asking in the morning, do you have any idea how much money they have raised? They have raised shitloads of money, $8 billion, $65 billion valuation, all because they've gone and done exactly what people were doing for the last 50 years, which is to pick up the phone and call a cab. The reason is not because of the phone or the cab. The reason it's because cheaper, faster, better. There is no other way. So remember this, cheaper, faster, better. Forget the idea, solve the problem. These are the two principles if you ever want to start up. I'll give you one last tip for starting up, which whatever I've said so far is a repetition, but this is my personal view. When you want to innovate, when you want to start up, when you want to disrupt, irrespective of how we do, once you've got the problem solved, once you've decided whether it's going to be cheaper or faster or better, before you start up, the one thing that all of you need to be to start up is that you need to be stupid and you need to be brave. I firmly believe that there is no entrepreneur in this world who is not a mixture of brave and stupid. Because if you're not brave, you will never leave the comfort of a secure job and start up. And if you're not stupid, you will never go start up. Certainly with so many challenges, fundraising, this, that, people, I mean, there's just millions of problems. So unless you're passionate about them, about your idea, you're not going to start up. But remember, irrespective of the problem you're solving, irrespective of the idea, irrespective of your funding, irrespective of your cheaper, faster, better, if you want to start up, go back tonight, look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I a stupid person? And if the mirror says yes, then I think you're beginning to get ahead. If the mirror says no, you're not ready to start up. I mean, it's very easy to put your hand up when she asks, how many of you want to start up? I'm sure many of you put your hands up. Now I'm going to ask the same question. How many of you in this room are stupid? Well, there are some hands that are going up, and I'm not sure you thought about the question hard enough. But sure, if some of you are stupid enough, then that's good. How many of you are brave? More hands will go up, because all of us think we're very brave. The question is, how many of you are brave and stupid? I think you're good to go. You just have to solve a problem. So just give me a minute. I have to go back and refer to the notes because there's no slide. So what I'm now going to tell you is 5 areas. I'm going to mention 5 areas that are going to massively get disrupted over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I'm going to name those areas. So it gives you an idea of where the likely innovations and disruptions are going to come from. It doesn't mean that you have to go and work in those areas. It just means that these are some pointers. You could go back and put up a ticket, I mean, it just doesn't matter. But here are 5 areas that I think are going to get massively disrupted. First is transport. The incredible changes that's happening to transport, Uber being one of them, driverless cars. Yesterday I read about something that says you could fly from New York to London in 11 minutes. right? You could do space rides. So transportation is an area that's going to get massively disrupted. Health and fitness. I think health and fitness, using a combination of some of the stuff that he spoke about, and there's lots of it happening, combined with a massive amount of data analytics tools, health and fitness is going to get redefined. What you have seen so far with companies like Fitbit and wearables is nothing. It's not even scratching the surface. The next 10, 15 years, the way we manage our health and fitness is going to get completely changed. These are areas that are not going to get innovated. These are areas that are going to get completely, thoroughly disrupted. The third area is using this technology, which is Internet of Things, and they're just going to drive every single area. We talk about health, we talk about transportation, but I think manufacturing is going to get disrupted. Chemical processing industries are going to get disrupted. The arts are going to get disrupted using a massive amount of changes that's happening in Internet of Things. The fourth area that I think is going to get that's going to disrupt things is augmented reality. I think it's, well, the cliche is that augmented reality is finally going to be a reality. But the fact is that there's going to be huge changes are happening, and massive number of startups worldwide, not too many in India though, massive number of startups worldwide are actually working in this area. In fact, just 2 weeks back, I just made an angel investment into an augmented reality company in Bangalore. They just filed for a couple of patents, and they're all really high-tech stuff. People at the cutting edge. We don't have too much of resources here, but people are using whole lot of cutting-edge technology, trying to get into areas that are going to be the future. And the last and fifth one is going to be artificial intelligence. She spoke about it, so she's the expert. But I can tell you that this is another area. So if you take a combination, and they're not black and white, it's not that each of them will happen. I think there will be overlaps. A lot of disruptions in health and fitness and transportation will happen because of mixture of augmented reality and artificial intelligence. Many of them will use Internet of Things tools. But the fact is, here are 5 areas. So just to quickly summarize, health and fitness, transportation, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, augmented reality. These are the areas where we're going to see massive disruptions in the next 10-15 years. And next I'm going to finally name 5 companies I think that are going to work at the cutting edge of disruption. 2 of them actually founded by Elon Musk that he was mentioning about. One is Tesla, he showed you a slide. The other is, so I'm not going to talk about it, the other is SpaceX. How many of you have heard of SpaceX? Right. So I'm actually from Chennai, and so I went to school in Chennai. I went to a school called Vidya Mandir in Malapur. Not sure, I guess many of you would have heard of it. I also went incidentally to a college for the first batch in the Government College of Engineering, where the first principal was Dr. Peer Mohammed. Okay, so there is a connection with this place. He subsequently came and was instrumental in founding the Crescent College. So he was the first principal, and he was the founding principal, but I was a founding student as well. So I was the first batch, and I've spent a lot of my childhood in Chennai. Here's the difference. When I was your age, I used to take a 21C from Mandeville to Paris. When you will be my age, you will take a 21C from Chennai to Mars. That's what SpaceX is going to do, because they're going to dramatically change space travel as a consumer business. You could buy a ticket and say, Mars ko a ticket kudunga, right? It's going to happen. Sure. And that's exactly what he said, right? Things he was mentioning is it's impossible. In the morning he was mentioning the reason Steve Jobs didn't ask is because people can't imagine. None of us can imagine, but it will happen. It may take 5 years, 10 years. Well, it won't take 5 years. It may take 10 years, 20 years. But sooner or later, which is why I said, when you are my age, you could be actually doing that. Google and Amazon continue to work in areas that we haven't found out. And my personal favorite that I keep talking about everywhere, the one company that's truly at the cutting edge of disruption, Uber, and we haven't even seen. If we think Uber is going to be a cab hailing company, then we completely not understood the scope of the technology. They're going to dramatically change things. For all of you who want to invent, innovate, or disrupt, you're thinking about ideas, you're trying to what kind of problems, look around you. In the morning, a speaker went around asking, what's the problem? What is the problem you face? And somebody came up with some interesting problems of writing your own assignments. I faced that problem in college. Nobody has solved it yet. But there are problems around us. Everything is waiting to be disrupted. I can't believe that even today, I can actually book a ticket on an airline on my phone and call a cab, take an Uber to the airport. My ticket is there on my phone and I can go. But I have to stand here holding this and not moving from this place, making it so difficult. Or I have to wear the big contraption on my head. Why is it that we can't have a smartphone app that directly connects over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to the speaker system so I can just put the phone and keep walking? And it's not that people have not tried it, right? I mean, it's obviously not a great idea, a unique idea, because people have tried it. Quality is bad. I've tried this in so many places. I spend about 10 days a month these days going to multiple events and speaking. This is just a pain. And everywhere I say, look, if you want to disrupt something, this damn thing is waiting to be disrupted. Throw it out. Can I use the phone? Can I use the phone over Bluetooth, connect to that and speak? Walk here. Why should I use this? And this is digital. And yet, people are all trying to solve big world hunger. What can I do to remove hunger in the world? Forget it. Can you please remove the mic first? And this is not a small idea. I can tell you nobody's done this well enough. So if you pull it off, you could be sitting on a massive global business here. If anybody in this room starts up, she's giving her email ID, I'm giving my email ID, 5% for me. There's a royalty, it's not a free idea. So that's all I had to say. But before I close, I wanted to go back and demonstrate to all of you the difference between the idea and the problem. This gentleman sitting here spoke about it. She also mentioned it. And I'm going to ask you, it's like a quiz, so we have a few minutes. I'm going to ask you 5 questions about inventions and the problem that they solved. And let's see how many of you answer it. Okay, question number 1. Somewhere in the 19th century, a person called James Ritty, he had a restaurant in Ohio. It was called the Pony House. And every day he suspected the employees were stealing cash. So he would go out in the evening, he'd come and the employees will, "Evladhan sir any collection." And he had a problem. So he solved the problem, and these are all 5 questions based on things that even today, and that's the mark of a true invention or an innovation. They have to stand the test of time till they get further innovated. But here are 5 questions, 5 inventions that have stood the test of time. So the quick question, James Ritty, he had a restaurant called Pony House in Ohio, 19th century. He thought his cash was being stolen every day. But so what? He had to solve the problem. Any of you can tell me what did he invent? Any of you?
Is it a CCTV camera?
No, 19th century. CCTV camera, no. Any of you? The cash register, even today, the cash register that you use was the one that was invented in that restaurant so many years back. Truly it has stood the time. Obviously it's gone digital, it's got USB, it's connected over Wi-Fi, but the fact is the cash register is the one that has stood the test of time. Here's second one. The year 1860, a person called Rene Laennec, he found himself getting very close to women's chests. and he found himself to be very uncomfortable with it. Who was he? What was he doing? What did he invent?
He was a doctor.
Okay?
He invented stethoscope.
Absolutely. It is the same stethoscope that we use today was invented in 1816 by this man because he was the most well-known physician in the world in those days, and he found himself to be very uncomfortable getting close to women's chests. That has led to the stethoscope, which today we use it for anything. But remember, here's the beauty of inventions. He used it to solve a very peculiar problem. Today, doctors worldwide, despite rapid advances in medical science and technology, continue to use the same stethoscope to check for heartbeats. In the year 1869, a priest, Reverend Jonathan Scobell, his wife was an invalid. He was in Yokohama City, and he had to take her around in the wheelchair, and he didn't like that. So he invented something. The invention failed, but became extremely popular in other parts of the world, including India. Anybody wants to guess? Crutches? No.
Tire? Rubber.
Rubber. Okay. How would he use rubber to take his invalid wife out? So he invented something to take his wife out because he wanted to take her out in the streets of Yokohama.
By tying the rubber on wheelchair.
No, he was not happy with the wheelchair. He just felt that it made her look like an invalid. I can't hear you. No. 1869. There were no prosthetics in those days. Okay, I think the problem is you people have gone deep into medical technology. He invented the rickshaw. The rickshaw was a failure, but became extremely popular in other parts of the world. There are countries that still use it, the parts of India that still use it. In the 1904, in St. Louis, in a world fair, there was this Englishman. His name was Richard Blenchenden. It was an unusually hot day, and he was not getting customers to whatever he was doing. So he invented something that many of us still love today. I see, absolutely. An invention that has stood the test of time. He did it because people were not coming. He was selling tea. Nobody used to come to his store on that day because it was a terribly hot day. So we just put some ice, and that was the beginning of what today we call iced tea. And the last one, 1974, Wrigley's. They were struggling. Wrigley's, you know Wrigley chewing gum? Yeah, so they were struggling with managing inventory. So they went and invented something and they tried it out in a store in Troy and again in Ohio, which even today is absolutely, it's the barcode. It has revolutionized retail consumer experiences and continues to be used today, not just in retail but in multiple areas. Now the reason I listed these 5 is to bring out the most interesting part about innovations or disruptions. You invent or innovate something to solve a problem. Like I told you, forget the idea, solve the problem. But you have no idea what shape they will take. If it succeeds, it will go and get used in completely different areas. You invent something to solve a problem, yet it goes on to become a big success and takes a life of its own, exactly like Uber. They invented or they founded Uber because apparently they couldn't get a cab on a winter night in Paris. We've all read that story. But today, it's hardly a cab hailing company. I mean, what it will be 10 years later, even the founders have no idea. And that really is the beauty of innovations or disruptions. If you really get focused on solving a problem and create a great solution, the solution will stand the test of time and go on to do things that you as a founder or an inventor or an innovator or a disruptor never thought about in the first place. Thank you.